They will never tell you. They will never admit it. Not to you, not to themselves, but it is there, hidden behind the smile, buried underneath the compliment that felt just slightly off, lurking in the silence after you shared good news. Envy does not announce itself. It disguises itself as concern, as criticism, as friendship. And the most dangerous envier in your life right now is probably someone you still trust completely. Friedrich Nietzsche spent his life studying the hidden forces that move between people, the invisible wars, the silent poisons. And what he found about envy was this: it is not a simple emotion. It is a whole architecture of behavior, built carefully, brick by someone who cannot stand what you are becoming. Once you learn to read the signs, you will never be able to unsee them. And some of what you are about to recognize is going to hurt, because it will have a face you know. Sign 1. They celebrate your failures louder than your wins. Notice this carefully. When something goes wrong in your life, certain people light up in a way they cannot fully hide. Their sympathy comes just a little too quickly. Their concern sits just a little too comfortably on their face. They ask follow-up questions about your setback with an energy they never bring when things are going well. This is not care. This is relief. Your failure temporarily silences the voice inside them that has been measuring itself against you. When you fall, they breathe easier. And that exhale, however subtle, is the first signature of secret envy. Sign 2. Your good news makes them quiet. You just got the promotion, the relationship, the opportunity, the result you worked for. You share it with someone close to you, and instead of a genuine, open, full-bodied reaction, there is a pause, a flat "that's great," a quick subject change, maybe a small comment that slightly minimizes what just happened. "Oh wow, must be nice. I'm sure it'll come with a lot of stress though." You got lucky with the timing. Nietzsche understood this pattern precisely. He called resentment the psychological prison of those who cannot climb themselves, so they spend their energy pulling others back down. Your success confronts them with their own stagnation, and instead of being inspired, they are threatened. The quietness after your good news is not indifference, it is the sound of someone swallowing something bitter. Sign 3. They give backhanded compliments. This is one of the most sophisticated tools in the envious person's arsenal, because it sounds like praise on the surface, but underneath, there is a needle. "You look amazing. You've lost weight. You really needed that. That was actually really impressive. I didn't expect that from you. You're so brave for trying that. I could never put myself out there like that." Each one arrives wrapped in a compliment and leaves a small wound you cannot quite explain. You walk away feeling vaguely less than, but you cannot point to exactly why, because technically they said something nice. This is intentional, maybe not always consciously, but the envious person has learned that they cannot openly attack what they secretly want. So they praise with one hand and diminish with the other, and the sting you feel is real, even when you cannot justify it. Sign 4. They suddenly become experts when you succeed. The moment you achieve something, watch who appears out of nowhere with opinions, warnings, and criticisms they never offered before. You launch the business, suddenly they know everything about why it might fail. You enter the relationship, suddenly they have deep concerns about your partner. You make the move, suddenly they are full of cautionary tales. Where was all this expertise before? When you were struggling, when you needed guidance, when you asked for support, they had nothing. But the moment your life began to look like something worth wanting, they became authorities on everything that could go wrong with it. This is not wisdom. This is envy wearing the costume of concern. It is an attempt to introduce doubt into your momentum, because your momentum reminds them of everything they have not started. Sign 5. They copy you, then compete with you. First they watch, then they imitate. Then, and this is the part that will confuse you, they act as if they invented what they copied and begin to compete against you in the very space you opened for them. Nietzsche wrote about this dynamic as one of the most revealing expressions of the weak will. The person who cannot create from their own depth feeds on the creations of others. They take the style, the idea, the move, the energy, and then, consumed by resentment at their own dependency, they turn on the source. They need to defeat you to convince themselves they never needed to learn from you. If someone in your life has done this, copied what you built and then tried to use it against you. Understand what you are dealing with. Not a competitor, not an equal, a mirror that resents its own reflection. Sign 6. They undermine you subtly in front of others. They never attack you directly. Envy is rarely that honest. Instead, it works in rooms where you are not present. It plants small seeds of doubt in conversations you never hear. It tells your story with a slight twist. It frames your confidence as arrogance, your ambition as selfishness, your success as luck. And when you are present, it asks the question in the group setting that is designed to make you look small. The perfectly timed interruption. The joke at your expense dressed as banter. The correction in public that did not need to happen. None of it is accidental. All of it is aimed. And the aim is to reduce you in the eyes of people whose respect they know you have earned. Because here is what the envious person cannot tolerate more than your success being witnessed and celebrated by others. An audience makes it real, an audience makes it undeniable, and an undeniable you is the most threatening thing in the world of someone who has spent years making excuses for their own smallness. Sign 7. They pull away exactly when your life gets better. This is perhaps the most painful sign of all, because it does not feel like betrayal, it feels like loss. The friendship slowly cools, the calls become less frequent, the person who was always there quietly begins to disappear, not when you are struggling, but precisely when things begin to go well for you, and you wonder what you did wrong. You replay conversations, you look for the mistake, but there was no mistake, there was only your growth. And your growth made the gap between where you are and where they have stayed too visible to ignore. So they create distance not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation, because staying close to your light makes their own darkness impossible to deny. Nietzsche believed that envy was the darkest confession a human being could make, darker even than anger, darker than hate, because envy says, I see what you have, I want what you have. And instead of becoming someone who could earn it, I would rather see you lose it. That is the root of every sign you just heard. Not evil, not conspiracy, just a human being who chose resentment over effort, who chose comparison over creation, who chose to orbit your success instead of building their own. Now hear the part most people miss entirely. The presence of envy in someone else is actually a message about you. You cannot be envied for being ordinary. You cannot be secretly resented for playing it safe. The attacks, the backhanded praise, the quiet withdrawal, these are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are confirmation that something is right, that you are moving, that you are building something real, that your life has begun to look like something worth wanting. Envy is uncomfortable proof of your progress. But do not become arrogant about it. Do not wear it as a trophy. Because Nietzsche also warned that the person who begins to live for the validation of being envied has already lost their own path. You were not put here to provoke. You were put here to become. And becoming, real, deep, genuine becoming, has nothing to do with who is watching, who is threatened, or who quietly seethes every time you rise. Keep your eyes on your own work. Keep your energy inside your own walls. Let the envy exist where it lives, in someone else's chest, not in your head. Because the most powerful response to someone who secretly envies you is breathtakingly simple. It is not confrontation. It is not exposure. It is not revenge. It is to keep going, quietly, consistently, relentlessly, until what they envy today is only the beginning of what you become tomorrow. That is the answer envy cannot survive. That is the only weapon worth carrying, and it was never aimed at them. It was always aimed at who you are still becoming.